What's going on, everyone? My name is Henry from Ahead of the Curve 94. Thank you so much for tuning in to this very special episode of Old Habits Die Hard. Let's go. Okay, elephant in the room here, people. The hat. This hat does not belong to me. I was never in the military. Specifically, I was never a U.S. Marine. I did have plans at one point, but I chickened out because I'm a little bitch. But my father was a Marine back in the 80s, way before I was born. If there was ever a time to bring out this piece of memorabilia, which, honestly, this hat is really important to me because my dad is no longer here. I decided to bring this out because we're covering possibly what might be my favorite war film of all time. I feel like this is an appropriate time to dust off the old hat and, just want to pay respects to my dad as well. Also, one more announcement. I am just getting over being sick for about a week or so. Better late than never. I've been trying to crank this one out for a while, but shit's been rough and my voice is going to sound a little bit off today. Hopefully by the next video things are cleared up and we're just going to keep the ball rolling, baby.
Alright, here we go. Go!
So, Fury. Let's get into it, okay? This came out when I was about 20 years old. I remember I was supposed to go see it in the theaters with a bunch of people from work. For some reason, I did not end up going, and they had a great time without me. Eventually, I was able to rent this from the library, and I immediately fell in love with this movie. I think I ordered it online like the same day or two after I seen it, so instantly this one connected with me. I knew it was a goddamn banger. Man, the things we're gonna cover in this review, it probably won't cover everything. There's no way I can actually fully express how much this movie means to me. It's been 10 years and I'm still holding on like real dearly to this one. Why Fury? This one, it tells a really small scale story about just this specific group of people during this, really short period of time. I think overall it takes place over a few days. So, really small time span and yet so much packed in. Wait, what are we doing here, folks? We need to read the plot synopsis via Wikipedia, of course. Fury, 2014. It stars Brad Pitt with Shia LaBeouf, Logan Lerman, Michael Pena, and John Bernthal as members of an American tank crew fighting in Nazi Germany during the final weeks of the European theater of World War II. Some people ask me, why do you use Wikipedia in your videos? Frankly, because it doesn't cover everything. I don't want to spoil every part of this film. The way I look at it, my job here is not to point out every single thing. I want you to experience this for yourself. This one in particular, when I do an episode of Old Habits Die Hard, that's usually for a movie that I care about deeply. When it comes to another one of my series called The Shit Show, that's when we just tear movies apart and roast them up. But on Old Habits Die Hard, we're here to give out the flowers. I am doing better though. It's been a long week, but I am doing better. I mentioned the cast already, but let me tell you people, this one it's amazing, okay? Legitimately, this is a real fucking team. For a moment, I thought this shit was real, okay? Fury, the tank itself, it feels like an apartment building. It's tiny, but there's so much going on. It's a legit lived-in place. This is their home for the entire film. And then the movie decides to keep the brutality just constantly going through this movie. It's on full display, and it's enough for me to take it seriously and not feel like a goddamn parody. From the get-go, the fucking intro to the film, we establish that this crew just lost one of their gunners, so insert Logan Lerman's character who's in to replace it. And nowadays, I watch this just giddy and giggling because I love this movie so much. But back in the day when I first experienced this film, I was like covering up like I was watching a goddamn horror film. It does not hold your hand for how brutal this shit can go. Immediately, we see parts of a man's face that's been gunned off. We see just mangled bodies that were just so flattened to the mud that they were just, oh man. It's brutal, people, even for the ones involved. These hardened heroes. I mean, fuck. Brad Pitt early on has to step away. As soon as they get back to camp, he steps away and he just has a small like panic or anxiety attack. Now, I was expecting him to just be this hard ass the entire time, but no. Early on, they decide to soften him a little bit. They give you this little bit of perspective of him just crouching down, catching his breath. And then we get a reverse shot of what he's looking at. It's just a bunch of German prisoners. Oh, man. I'm a sucker. This shit is good. Poor Logan Lerman's character, known as Norman. Man, he's the FNG. The fucking new guy. His first order is to clean up the mess inside the tank. And that's where we get our glimpse of a man's face that's been gunned off. He pukes, of course. I mean, I'm with him. There's no way I would have made it out here. I stubbed my toe. I'm done for the day. Within a matter of days, people, this character goes through this huge metamorphosis. You may see a lot of like grays and browns and greens, but this film, gorgeous. Cinematography is on point. They use the real tanks with real ammo. Okay, I'm kidding on that last part, but people, tell me this shit isn't convincing. I'm horny just thinking about it. Now, I mentioned earlier that this film, Fury, it does not cover the entire grand scale of the war. No, it's about a really personal story involving a tank crew. I really like that our heroes get sent on different missions throughout the film. At this point, we're sent on a rescue mission, and that's where we get our first tank versus tank sequence. Oh, I already showed footage earlier, but come on, man. Damn, I wish I saw this in IMAX. Now, for the sake of balance for this here video, let me get into some nitpicks, some cons, if you will. And, I don't want to act like this film is perfect. It's far from it. I remember one of the bigger complaints that I heard about this film was, is it a bit of religious propaganda? I mean, it does lean very heavily toward one side or the other. Personally, I'm not a religious person, so it does stand out in the story. It comes up quite a bit, but I didn't really find it distracting for me. What I did find distracting sometimes, on occasion, if you know David Ayer, you might know his weird sort of obsession with Latin culture. Usually it's LA based. If you've seen Training Day, he wrote that one. Suicide Squad, Bright. You might notice a bit of similarities, especially when it comes to his Latin characters. Michael Pena as Gordo, sometimes they want to draw too much attention that he is the brown one, so to speak. And then you have him working directly next to Norman, who's our viewpoint into this world. He's sort of, molding him a little bit as well. And he tells Norman straight up early on,
This ain't pretty, This is what we do.
Since this movie really registers to me, I refuse to just write all my pros and stuff them into this video. This is a movie I want to come back to in maybe another 5 years, maybe 10 years. This movie, at least currently speaking, I don't see it aging, and I'm going to keep coming back to it. Another common issue or complaint about this film is that it lingers a little too long on some shit. About midway through, our heroes stop at this town that they just taken over from the Germans. And honestly, let me just keep it real, people. The way it's coming off is these people, our heroes, they kill and plunder and then they have sex with the surviving civilians?
Bro, what the fuck are you doing?
I'm gonna take care of you, okay?
Okay.
You wanna see a tank? Hey, I'm gonna marry this girl.
It's gonna be for two. It's gonna be him and me. All right, you going up there?
It doesn't paint our heroes completely as angels, okay? These are complicated individuals who are doing hard things so we can sleep safely at night. I get it, but yeah, they definitely show a little bit of a gray / dark side to it. At this point, Brad Pitt's character and Logan Lerman's character enter an apartment where they know someone's in there. It turns out to be 2 women. This is already like throwing up some red flags, especially when he said lock the door. It turns out it's not what you think completely. Okay, so this ends up, goddamn. So the way this ends, Norma ends up getting some ass, okay? It's heavily influenced by Brad Pitt's character, to be fair. But, you know, after the deed is done, hey, I just appreciate that he's looking at him like, you know, that proud father, like, my boy got him some pussy. But then the rest of the crew comes in and they just, well, they really sour this sweet moment. It does not take long to get out of control. I mean, you know, people are drinking and crying and getting spit on. It escalates. It's actually one of the most intense scenes, and yet no one is shooting or getting killed. It's just a conversation. And Michael Pena killed that scene right there.
I'm just drunk, I'm sorry.
Suddenly, just as things are at its just most hostile, the team gets put on another mission, and immediately the ladies are killed. I could see some people being upset at the movie and the writing. It was like, we just spent all this time for what may feel like no payoff. Now, for me, I'm a little cold-hearted, apparently. I used to see it that way. Looking back at it now, because this is Norman's story. I think initially I expected this to be, you know, Brad Pitt's film, who, by the way, the year prior, he did World War Z. So in 2013 to 2014, he went from World War Z to World War II. I mean, I found that really interesting. But straight up, Brad Pitt is commanding the screen every time he's on, okay? It's his name on the fucking ballot. It's the one who's selling tickets and putting asses in seats. It's a shame that no one really talks about this film because I clearly adore this film so much. And I guess maybe it didn't make enough money. I don't know. It just didn't create enough buzz. But yeah, this is definitely one of the more underappreciated gems. I had to make sure I cover this, especially now that it's 10 years old and I've had a decade with this in my life. A lot has changed in a decade. I can't imagine in the next decade what's gonna happen, but hey, I hope I'm still holding on to this film because I don't know what's gonna replace it. I got distracted talking about Brad Pitt, but the point of this movie, it's about Norman, Logan Lerman's character. It's really cool to see how he goes from this, you know, timid, soft-spoken typist to hardened badass who's just killing Nazis by the dozens, you know, especially at the end where he's, spoiler, a lone survivor. Shit hits, man.
Fucking Nazi. Fuck you!
Which just reminds me, speaking of hits, Norma ends up clocking Grady, John Bernthal's character, a few times. He wasn't hitting shit for real, but man, you know what? At least he had a little bit of fight in him, so I'm gonna give him his props.
The only thing is to do is come on.
That scene gets me every time, man. You see Emma in the rubble. The score is just coming in heavy, which, you know what? I haven't mentioned that at all in this review. The score is one of the more underrated parts of this film. It's almost its own character. In the first half, it's mostly subtle and just background filler. In the second half, it's built to these crescendos and, oh man, it's, I don't want to use this word, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's epic, okay? It feels like it's 2014 all over again. Yeah, it's epic, okay? God damn. people, let's close it out with the third act here. Okay, our heroes are sent on yet another mission where all the other tanks do not make it. Fury is the lone survivor who must charge on and keep going. But then they hit a mine in the road, and well, Fury's kaput. She ain't going nowhere. I know what you're thinking. Last stand? Fuck yes, that's exactly right. Needless to say, they put up one hell of a fight against the opposing force. The numbers start to dwindle. There's only so much you can do when the enemy's numbers are seemingly endless. I mean, they just keep respawning. Like, god damn. Thankfully, Grady gets to apologize for being a dick to Norman for the entire film. Luckily, he gets to apologize right before the shit hits the fan because he's first to go. And every single time someone dies, they linger on it. They do not just quickly skip past, even though they have to for the sake of the rest of the team. I feel like I'm playing fucking Halo Reach, which I don't know if it's in the shot correctly, but there is a Halo Reach poster over there. For those who are wondering why the shot is the way it is, I know it's a little weird, but I have this entirely separate set dedicated to video game reviews and videos dedicated to that. And I am working on something to celebrate its 15th anniversary, but we'll get into that at some other point. Long story short, this climax, it feels like Halo Reach, you know? I'm attached to these people. I don't want to see them go, but we know where this is going to end, and it ain't going to be pretty. Next up, we have Gordo's death, who, man, he really takes it like a champ. He knew exactly what he was doing for his team. That one hurts. Bible unexpectedly gets sniped while he's mid-sentence. Poor guy, it's super uneventful, and, you know, dare I say he deserved better, but that's war. And lastly, of course, our star of the film, Brad Pitt. Yeah, he does not make it out of this one. He takes a fucking beating, though. Let me be clear. It almost was comical at one point. It's like, god damn, is he wearing a vest or some shit? I mean, yeah, okay, all right. The writers are like, no, this is Brad Pitt. He's gonna milk it for a little while, okay? We're paying for that face. We're gonna show it. Even when it should be blown to smithereens based on how brutal this film has been entirely up to this point, they are not gonna destroy that handsome face. So yes, I enjoy all of this. I don't want to go through every single detail with you because you gotta experience this one for yourself. Even if you didn't know the context behind the scenes, I feel like if you watch the battle sequences on YouTube, for example, even that will click for you. I mean, without the context of the characters at all. I would say it could use a trimming of about, maybe 15 or so minutes, which, isn't uncommon, especially for war films. They tend to linger on a few things a little too long. Even Saving Private Ryan or, 1917. What else did I bring out? I have War for the Planet of the Apes. Also over here, I have Tears of the Sun, which is a super underrated Bruce Willis film. Takes place in Africa. I'm actually due for a rewatch of that soon. I don't know if it holds up, but hey, I remember loving it as a kid, and it was also pretty brutal. So yeah, people, the team is gone. It's just Norman left. He is able to hide under the tank, put some mud in front of him, try to hide it out for the rest of the night. Okay, let's get into it, people. Norman is our lone survivor. Only because he encountered the nicest SS soldier apparently ever. Norman's caught, people, red-handed, and well, luckily for him, he's just able to fuck off and go about his day. It's a little wonky, okay, I'll give it that. My favorite part of this film was actually right before the climax sequence. At one point, they're all just, gearing up, getting ready for the final fight. This is where Norman goes from puny little Norman to the machine. Okay, yes, people, that is a huge moment for the character. He essentially goes from a boy to a man who's accepted into this family. I think overall, that's my favorite part of the movie, was that quiet moment of just, happy tears.
I love it in here. I best job I ever had.
It has this super bittersweet ending, but hey, it's unforgettable in my eyes, and Fury's gonna live on forever as far as I'm concerned.
The gang's all here. Oh!
So, let's get into the rating, people. Fury 2014. This film, shockingly, is gonna get the highest rating possible. New religion, okay? Yes, I highly encourage you, see this movie. You don't have to own it. I mean, I recommend you do because, hey, you're gonna wanna come back. But maybe it's streaming somewhere. Maybe you can rent it at a Red Box if that still exists. Go to your local library or thrift store. Check this one out if you like historic films, especially ones based around brutal fucking shit like World War II. If that's your thing, you're gonna like Fury. Thank you so much for tuning in, people. My name is Henry from Ahead of the Curve 94, and I'm signing out, y'all. Deuces. Hey, it's me again, the guy from the thing you just watched or fell asleep on, and you know who you are. Either way, I just need to say thank you so much. You deserve a reward, so here you go. And while we're here, please consider subscribing, leaving a comment, and most definitely check out another video. Perhaps this one right here, or maybe that one over there. The choice is entirely up to you, and that is the Ahead of the Curve promise.